Today, we are back. John Koofleitner is located just outside of Salem, Ohio for another episode of This versus That 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge versus 1977 Pontiac Trans Am Bandit. But before getting into all of it, I'm Jay. Welcome to What It's Like. Picture this, you just acquired a car you know nothing about. Perhaps it's a forgotten classic the big channels just don't care to cover. We feature the classics, vintage, some exotics, lots of orphan cars, and cars off the beaten path. Dive in with specs, period ads, as well as do the button switches and knobs. If that sounds of interest to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. So if you're new to the This versus That, we are only doing a car-by-car comparison, so we're not getting into all of the different engines. We are just comparing these two cars, starting with the specs of the GTO Judge. 202.9 inches long, 76.7 inches wide, 52.3 inches tall. It rides a wheelbase of 112 inches. It weighs 3,641 pounds. Price was $3,600, which is equivalent to you spending $27,650.60 in the year 2022. And we're going to compare that to the 1977 Trans Am specs, which was 196.8 inches long, 73 inches wide, 49.1 inches tall. It rides a wheelbase of 108 inches, weighs 3,530 pounds, price $5,450, which is equivalent to you spending $28,466.82. Looking at the specs side by side, it's very interesting. The Pontiac GTO Judge is longer, wider, taller, rides a longer wheelbase. It's also heavier than the Bandit, and it's also cheaper by $816.22. Now let's look at engine specs. All right, back to the Pontiac GTO with the Ram Air 4. It's a 400 cubic inch displacement overhead valve V8, 6.6 liters. It makes 370 horsepower, 455 pound-feet of torque. Compression is 10.5 to 1. When mated with a 4-speed manual transmission, 0 to 60 could be had in 5 seconds. Does the quarter mile in 13.9 seconds. Theoretical top speed is anywhere between 118 to 140 miles per hour. Average fuel consumption is 8.4 miles to the gallon. Compared that to the Bandit Trans Am, which has the 403 cubic inch displacement Oldsmobile V8, 6.6 liters. It makes 185 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque, mated to a 3-speed automatic transmission. 0 to 60 is 8.6 seconds, does the quarter mile in 16.6 seconds. Top speed 110 miles per hour, returning a 10.3 mile per gallon rating. So when you compare these figures, it's actually very interesting. The GTO Judge will walk all over the Bandit. Like, you won't be able to outrun the Judge in the Bandit. It has twice the horsepower. Like, literally, it makes 185 horsepower more than the Bandit. Makes 135 pound-feet more. If you dig this channel and like this episode, please give us a like because it helps more people see this video in the future. Let's talk about this door panel. Let's talk about this door in general. This is a very heavy door. It's trimmed out really nicely. Feels like a vinyl material all over this door panel. All this bright work all over it to differentiate from color, to break it up, to separate it. It looks really good. This is the door lock. So in this position it's unlocked, in this position it's locked. Says GTO right there. This is the door handle to pull the door shut, as well as armrest to rest your arm on as you're driving down the road. This is the door handle to get out, and it works like that. The mirror is a toggle switch style, so that's how it operates. This is the window crank for the big window. We're going to roll the windows up a little bit here, and just notice it does not have vent windows, and it's also curved. The glass is curved. So just check out this door panel. There is a lot going on. For one, let's talk about how heavy it is. It is a very heavy door. It's also very big. Like, let me take a step back here so you can see how big this door is. It's absolutely massive. Lots of materials going on. This feels like a leather and or vinyl. Once again, I'm not a material specialist, so I struggle with materials sometimes. Sometimes vinyl feels like leather and vice versa. Anyway, door handle to pull the door shut. This is the armrest to put your arm on while you're driving. Notice there's nice storage areas. You could also use this as a door handle, though I wouldn't recommend it because it feels sturdy enough to pull the door, but then again sometimes it doesn't because it's just a plastic insert piece. Use the door handle to pull the door shut. Door handle to get out. More storage space inside this. Nice Firebird logo there. Toggle switch style mirror. Coming down inside the pedal box down here, you can see lots of stuff going on. Here's some vents. That's what those control. The emergency brake release is right on top of the emergency brake pedal or parking brake pedal, depending on where you're located. Over here, I live in Western Pennsylvania. We come up with weird names for stuff all the time. That is the high beam dimmer switch, clutch, brake, gas pedal. That controls the Ram Air hood scoop. Coming down inside the pedal box down here, this is the handbrake release and or emergency brake. We call it the emergency brake here in Western Pennsylvania. We have weird names for everything here. This is the actual emergency brake and or parking brake. And this is the release it. The high beam switch is right behind it on the floor where it should be in my opinion. Brake pedal, gas pedal. Look, this one's got crotch ventilators. That's a ventilator aimed directly at where your crotch would be. So that's what the door sounds like when you shut it. Here is what over the hood impression looks like. Here is what first person looks like. There is I wouldn't say tons, but there's enough room underneath the steering wheel that the steering wheel isn't in your crotch. But this has tilt wheel, so if there isn't enough space, you could just tilt it out of the way to whatever your desired position is. That's what the door sounds like when it shuts. Here's what over the hood looks like. Here's what first person looks like. I'll put my hand up here so it feels like you're driving it. Up above, nice sun visors. Here's my hand for reference of how big they are. Big, long rear view mirror. Another sun visor. It looks like there might have been a mirror here at one point. Up above here, we got sun visors and catalytic converter information. Rear view mirror. It has the daytime, nighttime feature. It's at the back. Can't really see. It's just a little switch. Over here, there's another sun visor with a courtesy mirror. Here's what I look like behind the wheel. Lots of headspace inside this car. Don't feel claustrophobic whatsoever. It's actually a really nice place to sit. Here's what I look like. There's not a whole lot of headroom. My hair is touching the top. If you had an afro bigger than what I got, you might feel claustrophobic. I don't feel claustrophobic in this car, but it does feel like a cave because everything is black and dark, and it's just black and dark. That's all I can really say. It definitely does feel cool, and I definitely prefer the velour seats over the vinyl seats. They just cradle you so much better, and it feels like you're sitting in the most comfortable chair that you've ever owned ever. On to the glove box test. Here's our test subject. Here is my hand for reference. This is the camera we do all of the cinematic shots with. Here's our glove box. Look at that, with room to spare. On to the glove box test. Here's our test subject. Here's my hand for reference. This is our camera that we use for all of the cinematic shots, all the up close and personal dashboard shots. And here is our glove box. Oh, look at that. Fits in there just right. And shuts. All right, getting in the rear seat. So before you get in the rear seat, there's actually a button here in the center of the seat. Push the button, and that's what releases the seat back. And then that gives you plenty of access to get back there. Real quick, before we get back there, I want to show you the other side. button in the middle of the seat. It folds forward, but not only does it fold forward, it folds completely flat. So if you were sick or whatever, you could use this as a footrest because it folds completely flat. Very interesting. Anyway, so we're gonna get it in the car on this side. Right, sitting in the back, there is a bad glare. I'm going to move over here. In the back seat of the 70 GTO, there's adequate headspace. There's enough room to do that with my hand. My top of my hair is starting to hit the headliner, but it's not bad. Here's what knee space looks like. There's enough room to do that. But the seat profile looks like it's a very upright seat. This is in the back. It goes down a little bit in the back here, but this bench seems a little bit more narrow than other cars that I've been in. There are some creature comforts back here, like coat hooks, as well as the windows do go up and down back here, and they operate like this. I just think that's so cool. The coolest thing about the hardtop not having a pillar there, anytime that I've ever driven one, say like 67 Mustang is what I owned, if you put a piece of paper and throw it up in the air with these corner windows down, the piece of paper will literally levitate in the middle of the cabin because of all of the air coming through all of the different areas in which it can come through. It's crazy. It's incredible. If you have a car like this, try it. It's crazy. Anyway, ashtray over there. There's also all of that stuff that is on the driver's side is also on the passenger side, except for the coat hook. There is no coat hook here for some reason. There's only a coat hook on this side. But windows go up and down, and there's an ashtray. There isn't a center armrest in here. Getting in the rear seat, there is a handle right here at the bottom of the seat. Pick up on it, push the seat forward, and then it goes like this. Notice the seat belt. You have to avoid it getting in the back. Also notice how the seat back curves up. See how that is? All right, getting in the rear. All right, sitting in the back seat, it's not very comfortable. There isn't hardly any headroom for myself. My head is inside the headliner. I can feel the top of the actual metal roof. Knee space isn't any better. Negative knee space. They're protruding well past this seat, and if I had to shut the door, I would be crammed back here. For reference, I am 6 foot tall. I'm 6 foot 2 inches tall. I weigh about 215 pounds, wear size 34 waist, and I don't fit back here. Some creature comforts back here worth talking about. There is a coat hook there, ashtray. This one has a really rare feature I've never seen in any other Trans Am. It's got the center console, which gives you another ashtray. So there's 3 ashtrays back here for 2 people. Interesting. This is a rear center console, and I guess it came factory like this, or at least that's what the owner told us. Everything on the passenger side is also on the driver's side. Coat hook here, ashtray here. Sorry, my legs are in the way. There's nowhere really to put them. There's no space back here. Coming back and getting into the trunk, this round key is the trunk key. It goes right in here like this. So just check out this trunk. Look at how massive it is. Coming to the rear back here for the under the trunk. So if you notice, there isn't really a keyhole to get in the trunk that you can see because it's hidden. Back here where you put the gas, it's down, and that's where you put the gas, and there's also a keyhole for the trunk. So it's secluded. If you don't know where it is, you don't know. And here's what the trunk looks like. Spare back there. It goes up there quite a ways, but the trunk opening is about the size of a Datsun 240Z opening, in my opinion. And the load area is up pretty high. Like, for example, it comes up to my thigh. So if you got this car, you have to lift it up over your thigh and put it in here. Also notice the opening isn't that big either. But, you know, you could fit golf clubs in there, no problem. Chairs, go to a car show. I like the fact that it has multiple lights. There's light here, and there's lights inside here, it looks like. So you can see what you're getting into. And it goes all the way back inside here, too. So it's actually a very spacious trunk. All right, getting under the hood. So the hood release is right inside here. There's a little tiny, it almost feels like an Allen wrench, how an Allen wrench curves, and you kind of just pull it out and that pops the hood. You have to keep your hand on that and pull it. This hood is extremely heavy. But there it is, 400 cubic inch displacement V8 with 4 Venturi on the carburetor. All of this has to do with the shaker hood, which opens and closes and allows more air to come through this scoop into the engine. It's got a dual master cylinder, but not power brakes. And just look at how the steering shaft comes out down inside to the steering box and or rack down there inside there. It's got an alternator and a power steering. No AC, which is good if you want a muscle car that's fast and not rob the horsepower. Coming to the under the hood section. So if you look around, usually Pontiacs put them here. This one is found right inside here, almost like a T-handle. Pull it towards you and that pops the hood. And then you just got to find around for the second catch. I lied, there isn't a second catch. This is what the engine looks like. Put a lot of plumbing underneath the hood. This one's got air conditioning with a nice big air conditioning unit here. Just hoses going everywhere. This is where you fill your coolant overflow tank. Alternator. It's got power brakes, dual master cylinder. This looks like windshield washer, power steering. Man, this thing sounds so healthy, so good. Driving the GTO. Got first, second, third, fourth verse is you pull this up and over, and that's, yep, that's reverse. I'm still in reverse. It's because sometimes it just doesn't go back down. I don't like that. But the clutch is really light. It's not really light, but it's a hydraulic clutch. But it's not as heavy as some of these other muscle car clutches are. The gas pedal, there's absolutely no resistance on this gas pedal. And I get it, it's a clutch spring thing, but it's definitely nice because some of them are so stiff that you can't even push down. I'm not into that. This one's just nice. the Bandit should have drove. I don't have anything against that car, but the Bandit's not this. That car's a good cruising car. This car's a good car to have fun with. I'm in third gear, 35 miles an hour, and kind of loading it up here. If I floor it, we kind of take off nice and good. Now it's shifting here. Brake pedal's really stiff, but it feels right. I like a nice firm brake pedal. It gives you confidence that you're actually going to be able to stop. I love this car. Oh man, I love this thing. Freaking amazing. All right, driving the Trans Am. I was gonna say $100 he goes.
I'm surprised this little Ford didn't go.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting on the on-ramp to get onto the highway. I love the way that this car turns. I don't like the steering wheel. The steering wheel's really small, in my opinion. You could drive this car like you're supposed to drive it and put it in drive and just go. I have it in low, and then you could shift it up to super or drive. But we are turning, we're going about 30 miles an hour. We are turning 2,500 RPM. There's 60, we're turning 3,500 RPM in super, and we're gonna put it in drive. We are turning 2,000 RPM at 60 miles an hour. That's really remarkable because it's only a 3-speed transmission.
Pardon me. That's sunset. Please focus. Oh, what a beauty. Look at it reflecting off the hood. Sorry, Jay. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So that's Zach. He's helping me out with some camera work. I help him out with some camera work. He helps me out. He'll be more on the channel more often.
More frequently.
Yes, more frequently, I should say. We both work at John Kuhfleitner's out in Salem, Ohio. This car is currently for sale. It is a really nice example, probably the nicest driving example that I've ever driven. It stops really well. It drives really well. It drives super straight. Like, don't do this. I'm not telling you to do this, but straight as an arrow. We're not even veering off course. The quality of this, it's hard to explain. It's not floaty, but it's not rough. It's somewhere in the middle. It rides a lot like a Plymouth Savoy, like a 62 Plymouth Savoy. And I always go back to that car because that car is really, it's really a marvel, really. That car just drives better than you think. It's not floaty, but it's not harsh either. It's in the middle somewhere. Somewhere in the middle. Give her
the beans.
Gotta give her the beans here. It's always a good idea to back off a little bit and then shift it up and then push your foot down again. And then back off, shift up. At least that's how I do it. I never had one blow up on me because I did it that way. I used to drive my 67 Mustang like that all the time. I drove it for 5 years like that and never had an issue.
That was so cool looking.
Before we conclude, some final thoughts on these two cars. If you're in the Bandit, much like in life, you will not outrun the Judge. The Judge will run circles around the Bandit. With that said, the Bandit has a smoother ride and it's more isolated from the road. For instance, if you hit a rock in the GTO Judge, it sounds like you're being shot at because there's not any insulation inside that car. Whereas in the Bandit, you're more isolated because they put more sound deadening stuff in the car than they did in the muscle cars. They are both cool icons in their own right. I hope you really liked this episode. I sure did. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to give me the name of the band as well as song title correctly will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. I appreciate all of the continued support. If you'd like to get in touch with me, shoot me a comment in the comment section below. I read and answer all comments posted, or check out our Facebook group that correlates with this YouTube channel. The link will be in the description. And until next time, toodaloo!